They built the greatest city on earth. Then they drowned it in their own filth. The Thames, brown, moving, wrong. Not the brown of mud or silt, the brown of 2 million people's waste baking in summer heat, rising off the water in waves that made men weep in the street. June 1858. The British Empire controlled 1/4 of the world's landmass and could not walk past its own river. Parliament adjourned, not from war, not from plague, from a smell. What does a civilization do when its greatest achievement becomes its greatest threat? What does the most powerful nation on earth do when it cannot breathe? 30 years before the stink, London was a miracle. 2 million people inside a city built for 300,000. The docks at Wapping never slept. Coal barges from Newcastle, silk from the Orient, sugar from the Caribbean, arriving before dawn, unloaded before breakfast, sold before noon. Every day, every tide. The wealth of the world passed through a single bend in the river. Walk through Cheapside in 1830, and the noise alone could stop your heart. Iron wheels on cobblestone, vendors screaming prices, church bells from 17 directions at once. The smell of bread from the bakeries on Bread Street, that part was good. The smell of horse from 10,000 animals working the roads, that part was not. Mayfair had gas lighting by 1820, running water in the wealthier homes by 1840. The Great Exhibition of 1851 drew 6 million visitors to Crystal Palace in Hyde Park, a cathedral of iron and glass so vast it enclosed full-grown elm trees inside its walls. 6 million visitors. Entire countries had fewer people. But under all of it, beneath the marble, the gas lamps, the empire's pride, London had a secret. It had no sewers. Not real ones. Cesspits under every building. 200,000 cesspits dug into the clay, slowly leaking into the soil, slowly bleeding into the wells, slowly finding their way to the river that everyone drank from. The city that lit the world with gas light was drinking its own waste. The cesspits filled. The night soil men emptied them, at night by hand, carting the contents to the edge of the city. But London grew faster than they could cart. By 1840, the pits were overflowing before the men could return. Landlords, facing fines for overflow, did the only logical thing. They knocked holes in the walls and sent everything directly to the Thames. The Thames could handle it. Everyone said so. The Thames was enormous. It would dilute, disperse, disappear the problem. The same engineers who built the railways said so. The same physicians who ran London's hospitals said so. The same members of Parliament who drank river water at their dining tables said so. They were wrong, and by the summer of 1858, they were out of excuses. His name was cholera, and it had already visited twice. 52,000 dead across Britain. London hardest hit. Streets in Soho and Whitechapel losing 1 in 10 within weeks. The doctors called it bad air, miasma from the Greek. They burned tar in the streets to fight it. They hung vinegar-soaked rags in doorways. None of it worked. Another outbreak. 14,000 dead in London alone. John Snow, a physician in Soho with a habit of counting things, noticed something others had missed. The deaths clustered, not randomly, around specific streets, specific wells, specific buildings. He mapped it. He found the source, a single water pump on Broad Street, its handle removed only after snow proved it was killing people. The well was 12 feet from a cesspit. The cesspit was leaking. Bad air didn't cause cholera. Contaminated water did. Snow proved it, published it, and was largely ignored because if the water theory was correct, the entire infrastructure of the most powerful city on earth was a death machine. Nobody wanted to believe that. By 1858, London's population had reached 2.5 million. The Thames received 47 sewage outflows daily. The embankment walls were stained black. Fishermen who had worked the river for generations abandoned it. Nothing lived in the water anymore. Thames salmon, once so common that apprentices' contracts legally limited how often masters could feed it to them, had vanished entirely. June 15, 1858, air temperature 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the hottest London summer in recorded memory. The river baked. And then the smell reached Parliament. Members of Parliament had debated sewage reform for 11 years. 11 years of committees, reports, counter-reports, engineers hired, engineers dismissed, proposals costed, proposals shelved. The city's Metropolitan Board of Works, formed in 1855, had the authority to build a sewer system. It had the engineering plans. Joseph Bazalgette, its chief engineer, had submitted a design capable of handling the entire city's waste: 83 miles of main sewer, 1,000 miles of tributary tunnels. Parliament rejected the budget twice. Then the summer came. The curtains in the Houses of Parliament were soaked in chloride of lime, a disinfectant, and hung across every window facing the river. They didn't help. Hansard, the official parliamentary record, reports that committee meetings were abandoned mid-session. Members left the building holding handkerchiefs to their faces. The Chancellor of the Exchequer described the smell as a stench so foul as to be beyond the power of language to describe. 3 weeks. That's how long Parliament needed to pass the legislation it had blocked for 11 years. 3 weeks of breathing what the poor of Birmingham and Southwark had been breathing for decades. Bazalgette received full funding within the month. The construction began immediately. 18,000 workers, 318 million bricks. The project would take 6 years and cost what today equals £4.5 billion. The largest civil engineering project in the world at that moment. Not a railway, not a canal, not a bridge, a drain. But the sewers couldn't be built fast enough. The summer of 1858 killed 30,000 Londoners. Not all at once, not dramatically, in the way that poverty kills, quietly, in back rooms, in workhouses, in the bodies of people whose names nobody recorded. Cholera again. Typhoid, dysentery, diseases of contaminated water, killing the people who lived closest to the river because the river was all they had. The wealthiest city in the world could not protect its poorest people from its own waste. When the last section of Bazalgette's sewer system opened in 1875, Queen Victoria attended the ceremony. Joseph Bazalgette was knighted. John Snow, who had identified the cause 20 years earlier, who had proven contaminated water was killing people while Parliament debated and delayed, died in 1858, the year the smell finally forced action. He did not receive a knighthood. He did not attend any ceremony. He died at 45, his work still disputed by the medical establishment, his name unknown to the general public. The pump handle he removed from Broad Street is on display in a pub in Soho. You can visit it today. There is a version of this story where London acts in 1832, after the first outbreak, or 1848, after Snow's proof, or any of the 11 years Parliament received and rejected Bazalgette's plans. In that version, 30,000 people don't die in the summer of 1858. That version didn't happen. What happened was that the people with power didn't smell the problem until it reached their windows, and the moment it did, 3 weeks, 11 years of paralysis dissolved in 3 weeks. The infrastructure that kept the powerful comfortable had protected them from understanding what everyone else already knew. The problem existed long before it became impossible to ignore. Does that sound like ancient history? The patterns repeat. The people who see the problem first are rarely the people with the power to fix it, and the people with the power to fix it rarely act until the smell reaches their floor. Bazalgette's sewers still run under London today, 150 years later, still moving the city's waste. He built them with 3 times the capacity anyone said was necessary. He knew what happened when you built only for what you needed right now. They built a city of 2.5 million people and forgot to ask where the water went. 30,000 people died in 1858 because those with power could not smell what those without power had been drowning in for decades. History doesn't just bury bodies, it buries warnings. The people who survived the Great Stink weren't the wealthiest. The wealthiest had country houses, they left. The ones who survived were the ones who stayed, who built anyway, who sunk the tunnels 8 stories underground in the clay beneath a poisoned city because someone finally gave them permission. They built it knowing the city that killed 30,000 would stand for centuries after. If these 30,000 deserve to be remembered, not as a footnote in a Victorian engineering report, but by the world, share this, tell someone, because the only thing more tragic than what happened here in the summer of 1858 is that we keep building cities the same way. I'll see you in the next era.